My parents took my savings to fund my sister's lavish wedding, so I refused to attend. And now they call daily, but I ignore. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've always been the afterthought in my own family. You know the type, the quiet kid who doesn't cause problems, who always hears you're so mature for your age, when really, it just means no one ever bothered to ask how you're doing. My sister, Melissa, was the sun we all orbited around. She could do no wrong. She once crashed my dad's car while texting. And he still paid for her next upgrade because she was going through a rough time. Meanwhile, when I got straight A's, my mom barely looked up from her phone. "That's expected of you," she said. By the time I was 16, I'd already started working part-time at a local grocery store. Not because anyone asked me to, but because I knew if I wanted anything in life, I'd have to earn it. My parents were too busy covering Melissa's dance lessons, her braces, her drama classes, her every whim. Me, I paid for my own phone, my own laptop, even helped cover some of my school expenses when they said money was tight. But then somehow, when Melissa needed a new outfit for prom, they magically found $500. I didn't resent her at first. I honestly didn't. I just thought, maybe that's what being a brother means. Maybe being invisible is the price of being strong. They used to say it like a compliment. "You're so independent. You don't need as much as Melissa. You're our rock." But when you're always the rock, people forget you can crack too. I kept quiet for years. Thought it would change eventually, one that they'd notice. They never did, and the older I got, the more I realized I wasn't the plan. I was the backup plan, and I had no idea how bad that would get. The one thing that kept me going through all those years of being second best was my savings. While other kids in college were spending spring breaks at the beach or buying the latest gadgets, I was working double shifts and skipping nights out. I drove a beat-up old Honda with a cracked dashboard and a missing hubcap, telling myself every rattle was worth it because it meant my future would be solid. I skipped vacations, lived off instant noodles, and funneled every spare dollar into one place, my savings account. By the time I graduated, I had $38,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. It was my lifeline, the thing that said, "You're not stuck. You can build something for yourself." My parents knew about it. I didn't flaunt it. But I'd mention it sometimes with quiet pride, like, "One day, I'll have a down payment for a condo." They'd smile vaguely, not really listening, but I thought maybe, just maybe, they were proud. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was standing on my own 2 feet. I wasn't asking anyone for anything. This was the future I had bled for, my escape from always being the afterthought, and then came Melissa's announcement. Her wedding. Not just a wedding, a spectacle. She wanted horse-drawn carriages, a destination reception, designer everything. The whole family buzzed with excitement, talking about it at every dinner, every phone call. My mom's eyes sparkled in a way they never did for my milestones. But as they gushed about floral arrangements and gold-plated invitations, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The way my parents glanced at me. The way their tone shifted when they said things like, "We're all going to pitch in, right?" I didn't know it yet, but they were already planning how to spend the one thing in my life that had ever truly been mine. It started with my mom's voice on a random Tuesday evening. Light and casual, like she was asking me to pass the salt. "You'll help with the wedding, of course." No question mark. Just a fact. I blinked, trying to mask the jolt in my stomach. "Help how?" I asked slowly, already bracing myself. She didn't hesitate. "We've looked at venues," she said, her eyes glowing like she'd won the lottery. "The one Melissa fell in love with is a bit over budget, but with your help, we can make it happen. You're doing well now, aren't you?" For a second, I thought she meant something small, like picking up a few decorations or covering the cake. But the way she said it, like the money was already hers, made my throat tighten. I took a deep breath. "Mom, my savings aren't extra. They're for my future. A down payment on a condo, maybe starting my own business. I've been saving for years." Before I could finish, my dad cut in, his voice going cold and sharp. "This family supported you through college," he said, eyes narrowing. "Now it's your turn to support us." It wasn't even true. I'd had scholarships and loans and paid most of my own way. But he said it like a verdict, not an argument. I looked between them, realizing this wasn't a conversation. It was a decision they'd already made for me. My mom leaned in, her tone softening but her words twisting like a knife. Family comes first, sweetheart. Don't be selfish. Something in me shifted. For the first time, I felt the ground under my feet start to crack, and I could feel a storm brewing, one I wasn't sure I could stop. I stayed calm. I didn't yell. I didn't insult anyone. I just looked my mom in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't give you my savings. That money is for my future." And just like that, the air changed. My mother's jaw clenched, and her expression went from disappointed to disgusted. "Wow," she said. "So now it's your money? After everything we've done for you?" Melissa, who had been scrolling through her phone, suddenly stood up like she'd been slapped. "You're unbelievable," she snapped. "I knew you'd make this about you." "I'm not making it about me," I said, voice shaking. "I'm just saying, you're ruining the most important day of my life," she shouted, grabbing her purse and storming out. I sat there, stunned, while my mom dramatically wiped a tear from her eye and muttered, "I didn't raise my son to be so selfish." The next few days were a blur of passive-aggressive silence and weaponized guilt. My dad didn't speak to me at all. My mom left sticky notes on the fridge like, "Don't forget Melissa's cake tasting, not that you care." Then came the messages. Aunts, uncles, cousins, some I hadn't spoken to in years, started chiming in. "Just give a little," one said. "It's family. Why are you being so difficult?" Apparently my parents had been talking, spinning the story, making me out to be the greedy, heartless brother who didn't want to help his sister on her big day. It got to the point where I couldn't even check my phone without feeling sick, but I still said no. I still held the line until something happened. That made it clear I'd underestimated just how far they were willing to go. It was a Tuesday morning. I remember because I had an early shift and almost didn't check my phone, but something felt off. A pit in my stomach I couldn't explain. I opened my banking app like I had 100 times before, just to glance at my balance, feel a little pride, remind myself I was getting closer to that condo. And then I saw it. $742.18, I blinked. Refreshed the app. My hands started to sweat. It was supposed to say $38,621.52. I knew that number by heart. I sat up in bed so fast I knocked over a glass of water. My heart was pounding like I'd been sprinting. Fraud, I thought. Some kind of hack. Maybe someone stole my card. Maybe it was a glitch. I called the bank immediately, my voice already trembling. The rep was calm, too calm, as she pulled up the activity. "There were 3 authorized transfers," she said. "All from your account to another checking account in the same name." "What name?" I asked, but I already knew. "Melissa," she replied. "Initiated by the co-owner on file, Marie Thompson. My mom." I felt the blood drain from my face. The air got thick. I couldn't breathe. That account. It was opened when I was 15. My mom insisted on being listed so she could help me manage it responsibly. I never thought to remove her. I never imagined I'd need to. But now it was clear. The money wasn't gone by accident. It was taken, piece by piece, by the very people I was trying to protect myself from. 3 transfers. Over the span of 7 days. They didn't just steal my savings. They stole the only thing I'd ever had that was mine. And I had no idea what to do next. I don't even remember the drive over. Just that my hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and I had to remind myself not to blow through red lights. I didn't knock when I got there, just walked in. My parents were in the living room sipping coffee like it was any other morning. "Where's my money?" I said, voice low but deadly. My dad didn't even flinch. "You better lower your tone," he muttered, like I was the one who crossed a line. My mom looked up, startled at first, then annoyed. "Oh, honey, calm down," she said, as if I'd just spilled milk. "I assumed you'd be okay with it eventually. Melissa's wedding is important. She deserves a proper celebration." My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth would crack. "You assumed I'd be okay with you wiping out my life savings without asking?" Dad crossed his arms. "We gave you life. We raised you. Don't act like we've never done anything for you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There wasn't a hint of guilt in their voices, just self-righteous entitlement. And then Melissa walked in. Her hair still in rollers, grinning like she was in on some joke. "Seriously?" she scoffed. "It's not like you were going to use it. You live in that dumpy apartment and wear the same hoodie every day. That was it. No apology. No remorse. I looked at all three of them, the people I had loved, trusted, sacrificed for, and saw strangers. I stood there in silence for a beat. My voice didn't even shake when I said it. Don't expect me at the wedding. Then I turned and walked out, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like their son. I felt like a target they'd already emptied. The silence didn't last long. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd sit with what I said. That they'd realize they'd crossed a line and call to apologize, to make things right. Instead, they doubled down. The messages started pouring in. My mom left voicemails with a trembling voice saying, "We're still family. Don't let money ruin that." Then an hour later, another message. This time harsh, clipped. "You're acting like a stranger. You've changed." My dad texted a single line. "Grow up." My aunt, who hadn't bothered to text me in over a year, suddenly found her voice. "Family is everything. Don't ruin this over money." No one asked what actually happened. They didn't care that I'd been robbed. They just cared that I wasn't playing the part I'd always been assigned. The quiet, reliable one. Then came the cherry on top. Melissa posted a carousel of her engagement party photos on Instagram, the matching champagne glasses, the balloon wall, the catered trays of food, and right in the middle of the post, a photo of her laughing with our parents captioned, "Wish you were less selfish." Could have been a perfect night. She tagged me. That was the moment I unfollowed all of them. Deleted numbers. Blocked the group chats. I wasn't just angry. I was heartbroken. They didn't care about what they'd taken from me. Not the money, not the trust, not the years of quiet sacrifice. They just cared that I wasn't staying in my box. And deep down, I think they still believed I'd come around, but something inside me had already snapped. The final straw came when one of my cousins, someone I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged me. "Hey man, just wanted to say no hard feelings. Weddings can be stressful. Hope you come around, come around." I realized then that the whispers had turned into full-on storytelling. And I wasn't the narrator. I was the villain in a family fairy tale where I'd abandoned them over a few dollars, so I did the one thing I knew would slice through all the manipulation. I opened the extended family group chat, the one with a dozen aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, and I dropped a message. One long, deliberate message, no rage, no drama, just facts. I wrote, "For those of you messaging me about the wedding, I want to be clear. My parents emptied my bank account, $38,000 that I saved over years, without asking. That money was for my future. It wasn't for an emergency. It wasn't for someone's medical bills. It was for a party, a wedding. I will not be attending. I do not want contact, and I won't be guilted for refusing to be used." Then I put my phone down and walked away. The fallout was immediate. Some relatives texted me privately, stunned. I had no idea. "That's insane. Are you okay?" Others stayed silent or left the chat entirely. A few hours later, my mother sent me a voice note. I stared at the notification on my lock screen for a long time. The first few words leaked through before I deleted it. "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't need to hear the rest. I wasn't tearing anything apart. They already had. I was just done pretending otherwise. They went through with it. A few weeks later, my feed was flooded. Melissa had obviously untagged me, but mutuals still posted everything. The flower wall covered in gold-trimmed roses. Her custom designer gown with a cathedral-length veil. A literal horse for the groom's entrance, because apparently nothing says love like a rented white stallion. I saw it all from the couch of my one-bedroom apartment, reheating leftovers and listening to the buzz of my old fridge humming louder than usual. I didn't cry. But I didn't smile either. There was no apology. No text, no call. Not even a half-hearted wish you could have been there. Just silence, like I'd been scrubbed from the family record. I don't know what hurt more, the betrayal, or how easy it was for them to move on without me. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the blank ceiling, thinking about all the birthdays I'd shown up for. All the late-night rides I gave Melissa when she was drunk and scared. The times I skipped my own plans to help my parents with groceries, appointments, taxes. They never saw those moments as love. They saw them as duties. I was never the golden child. I was the reliable one. The background character they could count on, until I refused to be used again. And just like that, I became disposable. That night, I made a quiet vow. Not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, but out of survival. They were cut off. For real this time. No more guilt. No more excuses. No more hoping they'd change. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was done. I wish I could say that cutting them off made everything better. It didn't. Not right away. My bank account was still gutted. Rent was coming up. I had no safety net, no backup fund, no emergency cushion, just a few $100 and a pride that felt more like a bruise than a badge. Worse than the money was the weight. Not the kind you can measure, the kind that lives in your chest. I wasn't just grieving what they did. I was grieving who I thought they were. All my life I believed that maybe, someday, I'd earn their love. That if I was loyal enough, patient enough, useful enough, they'd finally see me as someone worth protecting. But they didn't. They saw me as a resource. A bank account with a heartbeat. That realization wrecked me. For days I didn't answer texts, didn't check email, didn't even bother eating full meals. Just microwave stuff, cold showers, and hours staring at a wall that never answered back. But somewhere in that silence, that aching emptiness, something strange crept in. Peace. No more wondering if I should text first. No more holding my tongue to keep the family vibe light. No more be the bigger person. I was done shrinking myself to make room for people who only noticed me when they needed something. So I picked up my laptop, opened up some old freelancing sites and got to work, writing, editing, designing, anything to rebuild. Brick by brick. Not for them. For me. I'd spent my whole life trying to build a future they could be proud of. Now, I was building one they'd never get to touch. Weeks passed. No calls. No guilt trips. No crying voicemails, just silence. At first it felt unnatural. Like I was forgetting something. Some invisible obligation I'd lived under for so long. I kept expecting my phone to buzz with some half-apology wrapped in manipulation. But it never came. And slowly I started to breathe again. There was no background hum of tension in my chest. No waiting for the next jab disguised as a family dinner. The silence felt strange, but safe. Then, out of nowhere, I saw Melissa's name pop up on my feed. She'd posted a black and white quote image. One of those moody, passive-aggressive things people post when they're trying to play victim. Some people regret burning bridges when they realize they can't swim. No caption, no tag, just vibes. I didn't even flinch. Just scrolled past it like it was background noise. But later that night, I got a text from a number I hadn't blocked yet. My dad, let's talk. Things got out of hand, short, no apology. No ownership. Just a vague olive branch that still placed blame on the air, not on their actions. I stared at the message for a while. Then I did what I should have done long ago. I blocked it, no anger, no dramatic reply. Just a clean, quiet exit. They weren't used to that. To me holding the boundary and not caving. The power had shifted, and I knew. For the first time. They felt it too. It was about 3 months after the wedding when I got the text. A friend from back home, someone who still kept in touch with everyone, messaged me out of the blue. You hear about Melissa? I hadn't. I hadn't heard anything, really. I'd carved out my piece and didn't go looking for updates. But curiosity cracked through. Apparently, Melissa's new husband had already been caught, drunk at some bar, kissing a girl who wasn't his wife. Not even discreetly. In full view of people who recognized him. The news spread fast. People talked. Melissa was devastated, according to my friend, but still clinging to the fantasy online, posting filtered selfies of them holding hands. Captions like, stronger than ever, your couple goals, your ride or die, it was all for show. A perfect wedding couldn't cover the cracks in a hollow foundation. I scrolled through the photos again. The horse, the designer gown, the $1,000 smile that probably cost more than my car. And I felt nothing, no joy. No smug satisfaction. Just a deep, heavy kind of closure, because while she was playing damage control online, my parents were dealing with real damage offline. Word had gotten around that they were in financial strain. Credit cards maxed. Wedding loans unpaid. Turns out when you burn $40,000 on one night and rob your own son to do it, karma sends the invoice. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sunlight streak across my tiny living room. No revenge. No outburst. Just peace, and I whispered to myself, not with malice, but with calm, and I didn't spend a dime. Starting over felt impossible at first. Every time I opened my bank app, the small numbers mocked me. Every time I passed a for sale sign outside a condo, I had to swallow the sting of what I'd lost. But I kept going. Freelance gigs turned into contract work. A client offered me a full-time position with better pay than I'd ever made before. I moved to a quieter city, smaller, cheaper, cleaner air, where no one knew me as the kid who always put family first. Here I was just me. I made new friends. People who asked real questions, who didn't flinch when I told the truth about my past, because I stopped hiding it. I used to feel ashamed, like admitting what my family did made me weak. But now I talk about it openly. Yeah, my parents stole from me to pay for my sister's wedding. I say it plain. It's not a secret, it's a scar, and scars mean healing. I even started therapy. At first I thought it was pointless, but those sessions helped me untangle years of guilt I didn't even know I was carrying. One line from my therapist stuck with me the most. You can mourn the fantasy of family and still protect yourself from the reality. I've rebuilt a few thousand in savings. It's not 38 grand, but it's clean. It's mine. And the biggest lesson I've learned? Blood doesn't mean loyalty. Actions do. For the first time, I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the fallback. I'm just a man learning to stand on his own, and proud of every brick I lay under my own 2 feet. The funny thing about silence is, once you get used to it, you notice when people try to break it. It started with a voicemail from my mom, soft, teary, like she was playing a part. I miss you. This family's not the same without you. Can we just talk? Then came another, and another, each one swinging between guilt and denial. My dad left a message like nothing had ever happened. Hey, thought I'd check in. Just wanted to see how you're doing. Melissa's birthday is coming up. You should come by, like he hadn't emptied my bank account. Like he hadn't called me selfish. But the one that threw me the most came in the form of a long, rambling email from Melissa. She said she understood now, that things got messy, that she never meant to hurt me. She ended with, I just want my brother back. I stared at the email for a long time. Not because I was tempted to respond, but because I wasn't. I felt nothing. No rage. No sadness, just calm. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but because I finally felt free, so I changed my number. Locked down every account. Added 2-step verification. Closed the door that should have been shut years ago. This time, I wasn't leaving room for what-ifs. They don't get to waltz back in now that their perfect world is cracking. I'm not the backup plan anymore. I'm someone they can't manipulate. Can't guilt. Can't drain, and the most powerful part? They know it. People always assume you have to hate someone to cut them off. That anger is the fuel behind distance. But honestly, I don't hate them. I just don't owe them access to me anymore. That realization didn't come in some big moment. It came quietly and during small wins. When I paid my own rent, when I cooked dinner in my new apartment, when I got my first paycheck at the new job and didn't feel obligated to share it with anyone. I used to think forgiveness was about reconnecting, letting people back in. But now I know that real forgiveness, healthy forgiveness, doesn't require re-entry. It just means I stopped carrying their weight. I stopped needing them to understand what they did. I stopped waiting for them to say sorry. I let go of the fantasy version of them, the parents who protected me, the sister who valued me, and finally accepted who they were. And who I was without them. I think about the years I spent trying to earn their approval. All the holidays I showed up to, even when I wasn't wanted. All the favors. All the swallowed anger. All the nights I convinced myself this is just what family is, but family isn't supposed to break you and call it love. And choosing myself, for once, felt like the loudest, most rebellious thing I'd ever done. My healing didn't come with fireworks. It didn't go viral. It was quiet, private, deliberate, permanent. I didn't need to punish them. Their choices did that on their own. All I needed was peace, and I finally had it. If you're still listening to this, maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've played the role I did, the strong one, the dependable one, the one they come to only when they need something. And if that's you, let me say this clearly. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to protect your future, even if it means leaving behind the people you were told to trust unconditionally. Because betrayal doesn't always come with screaming or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes with quiet entitlement, with smiles as they take from you, with guilt wrapped in love, and the worst kind, it comes from those who taught you that family means forever, but only when it benefits them. I wasn't born to be a backup plan. I wasn't put on this earth to be a safety net for people who never once asked how I was holding up. I'm building something now, slow, steady, and mine. My plan A. No, I'm not bitter. I'm not carrying hate, but I am done. Done waiting for people to become who I needed them to be. Done mistaking obligation for love. Done sacrificing peace for approval. And to anyone out there who feels stuck, like you have to keep giving because it's family, I'll tell you this. Blood might make you related. But respect? That's what makes you family. And the day I stopped begging for it was the day I started becoming whole. I'm not their backup plan anymore. I'm my own beginning. And I'm finally free.